I'd like to share a sort of humorous story, which is just one example of the discrepancy or the incongruence between practitioners of CBT or DBT in compared to ABA practitioners. So when I was a teenager in school, when I was curious about why my life was getting so badly affected by Asperger's, as it was called at the time, I asked one of my guidance counselors for a book about it that I could take home and read. And this was the book that was recommended, Asperger's Syndrome Survival Guide by Craig Kendall, and I know nothing about the author, so I'm not here to criticize the author per se. So I took it home with me, and I usually can't focus on school stuff when I was at home, so I brought it with me to my therapy session to read over it with my therapist at the time, whose name is Marla Starnes, who gave me her blessing to use her name, because I feel like if I give the little details, it'll make this story more credible and to put her in a good light. So anyway, so there's a lot wrong with this. This was clearly written by a proponent of ABA. For example, there's a chapter dedicated to treatment already a chapter with treatment, and it gets worse and worse. So it starts with, my therapist started noticing something was wrong on page 8, and they talk about all of the classical symptoms, and then after all of that it put, this does not mean they are all bad. Already putting a subjective viewpoint towards people on the spectrum. Most people wouldn't do that for the blind, and certainly most people wouldn't do that who are different in other ways, such as skin complexion or hair color. But I guess for people who process the world differently, it is very problematic for people who practice ABA. And let's see. And then there was a whole section, is there a cure for Asperger's? Spoiler alert, there's not. So this was already a red flag as well. And my therapist, she was getting more and more uneasy about the subject matter in this book. And then she's getting more and more reluctant as we're reading on. And then I go back to the table of contents so I can get right to the point of what I needed to learn, which I wanted to learn, how to not be distracted, and I wanted to learn how to carry myself properly and not, over dramatically, as I was called. And then we find that there is a chapter completely about prevention. How do you prevent Asperger's? And as soon as I read that out loud, my therapist, Marla cuts me. And she just says it how it is. She goes, we need to not read this. This book is really rubbing me the wrong way. So this was a book that was given to me at school by my guidance counselor. And when I read it to my therapist, she gets so upset by the subject matter that she tells me to stop reading it. So this is just one example of how there is such a big discrepancy between practitioners of DBT or CBT and ABA. And then I think there was also a page about, so on the page about treatment, they talk about ABA, of course, as the number one most helpful thing. And on the 4th paragraph on page 32, it already says, some have criticized this method as making autistic children seem too robotic, but others praise it greatly for giving their children a chance at life. So they're already pointing out that it's controversial, the practitioners in this book. So they know what they're doing is wrong. The very fact that they have to preface it with it being controversial. But I don't see that happening at all with DBT or CBT, or what I think needs to be used as a more popular treatment, which is humanistic therapy. So that is a funny story to me about, that was a very clear sign that something was not right with the treatment system I was getting and that my classmates were getting. So I just wanted to share that, and okay, bye.